I quietly slipped into the hall, careful to make no sound as my footsteps barely touched the marble floors. The atmosphere was filled with a hum of conversation and bursts of laughter, while music played softly in the background. The grand room was filled with guests, their voices mingling with the melodies, and it shimmered under the glow of chandeliers that sparkled in the soft light, casting reflections on the polished surfaces. It was meant to be a celebration, a night to embrace happiness and unity. But to me, it felt eerily like a wake. My heart raced in my chest as I moved cautiously, taking slow steps toward the shadows. The plan had been in motion for weeks. Even though I hadn't said a word about it to anyone, I needed to see it with my own eyes. The uncertainty had been eating at me for months, a constant, unsettling presence that I could no longer ignore. The nagging sensation had started as something small, easily dismissed, but now it was impossible to push aside. Something had changed in Emily, my wife. She had become distant, cold, even, and kept to herself more than usual. Her phone was constantly in her hands, her attention fixated on whatever was on the screen, as if someone or something was more important than me. Whenever I asked about her day, her answers were too rehearsed, too smooth, too evasive. She was hiding something. It wasn't just the small, inconspicuous things that bothered me. It was her behavior around Nathan, her colleague from the marketing firm. The first time I noticed something was off was during a dinner we had with friends. Emily had laughed a little too loudly at one of Nathan's jokes, her gaze lingering on him in a way that made a sick feeling rise in my stomach. There was an undeniable chemistry between them, an energy so charged it was impossible to ignore. The kind of spark I hadn't felt between us for a long time. I tried to push the thought away, telling myself it was just my mind running wild. But it stuck with me, a constant, creeping unease that made my skin crawl every time I thought about it. So, when the invitation to this party arrived, I made up my mind. It was my chance to uncover the truth. Emily had been hesitant at first, her voice uncertain when she spoke about going. But I insisted, telling her it would be a good opportunity for us to reconnect with old friends. She reluctantly agreed, but I could tell she wasn't thrilled. Little did she know, my plan was already in motion. I wasn't attending as her husband tonight. I was just another anonymous face in the crowd, observing from the shadows, waiting for the truth to unfold. I moved through the crowd, weaving between groups of people, all the while keeping my eyes fixed on Emily. She had arrived with Nathan. Of course, my stomach sank as I saw them walking together, side by side. The ease with which they interacted, the comfort they shared, was undeniable. It was as if they had been a couple for years. She didn't even see me at first. She was too absorbed in Nathan, laughing at something he had said, her hand brushing against his as they lingered by the drinks table. The closeness between them was impossible to miss. It was more than friendship. I found a secluded corner, a darkened spot far from them. Where I could watch without being seen, I remained hidden in the shadows, my gaze fixed firmly on Emily and Nathan. My eyes never strayed from them, as the evening continued to unfold around me. More than once, I saw them standing close, exchanging private smiles that were far too familiar. It became undeniable. There was more than just friendship between them. Her laugh, louder and more carefree in his presence, was a stark contrast to how she interacted with the rest of us. Her attention was always on him, her eyes lighting up whenever he spoke, while the rest of us faded into the background, unnoticed. The sight twisted my insides. The doubts that had been brewing for so long were now confirmed, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. Each glance, each shared moment between them, made my heart ache. My mind raced. Was this all in my head? Had I misinterpreted the signs? I wanted to confront her right then, to demand the truth, but I couldn't, not here, not in front of all these people. It was too public, too messy. So I stayed hidden, my hands clenched in fists, watching betrayal unfold before me. As the night stretched on, I saw them retreat to a quieter corner of the room, speaking in hushed voices. Nathan moved closer, his hand brushing against her arm as he whispered something in her ear. Emily blushed, a smile curling at her lips that was far too intimate to be innocent. And then it happened. Nathan pulled his phone from his pocket, his fingers flying over the screen before he handed it to her. Without a second thought, she took it from him, her attention fixed on the screen. A brief moment later, her face brightened, and she typed something in response before passing it back to him. I couldn't see the messages, but I didn't need to. Their interactions, the way they exchanged knowing glances, spoke volumes. Emily was having an affair, and Nathan was the one she had chosen. A cold rush of realization swept over me. I had suspected it, feared it, but seeing it with my own eyes was a different kind of pain. My heart screamed confront her, to drag her away from him and demand the truth, but I remained motionless, anchored in place. This was my moment, the one where I would gather the evidence I needed. The hardest part wasn't seeing them together. It was a realization that she had been lying to me for so long, deceiving me with every smile, every excuse. All those late nights she claimed were for work. The times she came home with a grin, pretending everything was fine. It had all been a lie, and I had been too blind to notice it. As the night dragged on, I felt detached from everything around me. The laughter, the music, the conversations. They were just background noise, distant and far away. I could barely focus on anything except Emily and Nathan, watching them from the shadows like a specter in the room. I saw her slip away from the crowd a few times, with Nathan close behind. Each time, they disappeared into another part of the hall, where the shadows seemed to conceal their actions. I knew now that they were more than just colleagues. They were crossing boundaries, and I had no idea how to stop it. As the evening came to a close and guests began to trickle out, I stayed behind. I couldn't face her, not yet. I couldn't bring myself to confront her in front of everyone. Instead, I quietly slipped out into the night, the cool air hitting my face like a slap, sharp and invigorating. The truth settled heavily on my chest, suffocating me. Emily had been unfaithful, and I had been too late in seeing it. When I arrived home, I sank into the silence of our empty house, trying to process everything. The pain was unbearable, the betrayal cutting through me like a raw wound that would never heal. But one thing was certain. I couldn't live with the lies anymore. I would confront her, but I would do it on my terms, when I was ready. And when that moment came, I knew it would shatter everything. Our marriage, the life we built, the love I thought we shared. There would be no turning back.